Goosebumps, the classic kids horror book series of the 1990s, is now getting not a TV show, but of all things, comic book series. It's an interesting choice. The comics so far have only two stories, each one being 3 issues. Each one is a modern take on a classic Goosebumps story, with Monsters at Midnight being more or less a retelling of One Day at Horrorland, while Download and Die is a very modernized and changed take on Say Cheese and Die. Say Cheese and Die was based around the idea of an evil Polaroid camera that would take pictures of bad outcomes. Like, if you took a photo of someone on a staircase, the photo would instead show the person falling down while the staircase breaks. Shortly after that happens, the staircase would break for real, causing the person to fall. So basically, the camera doesn't so much predict the future, as it forces the future to change to match the picture. This becomes even more clear when a car accident and a disappearance are both caused by the camera. So with that in mind, Download and Die is about a middle school girl, Mitra, who is a computer nerd whose friend Kyra is one as well. A new girl named Amanda, nicknamed Flips after her gamer handle, joins the group. Shortly afterward, bullies break Mitra's phone. While gaming at home, Mitra tells her friends about it, and Flips suggests getting revenge somehow while sitting on a couch dressed like Steven Universe and eating Chloritos. I've never heard of Chloritos before, but I heard they taste like Doritos. Anyway, shortly after, Mitra receives another phone in a mysterious box with no indication of who sent it. The phone gives off an odd glow and has a skull as its lock screen. It's also loaded with her personal information already on it, and a bunch of apps. Sounds skeevy to me, but hey, free phone. One app is called Creeps, and is a simple phone game about lizard people selling cookies. First you bake seeds into cookies, then you make the lizard people sell them. The cities in the game are based on real US cities too. Mitra plays the game and wonders when her city will be mentioned. Wait, hold on. Lizard people selling cookies with seeds baked into them. That sounds familiar. Haven't I heard of that somewhere before? At home, Mitra messes with her phone and takes a photo of her cat using a pink filter. The next day, she sees the bullies in the computer lab and she's angry. So she takes a picture of them with a new phone and applies a filter called So Sick to make them look sick and thinks, I wish you would get sick. Because this camera app is on a haunted phone, the bullies shortly do become sick and start vomiting, making the lab now open to whoever wants it. The three girls later have a sleepover, and Mitra has a dream about Weather, the new girl at school that she's interested in hanging out with. But in the dream, Weather suddenly is replaced with classic Goosebumps villain Slappy the Dummy, for some reason, because hey, why not? He's popular, so put him in there. Slappy even teases Mitra about having a crush on Weather. Also, who names their kid Weather? Slappy may not be a homophobe, but he's still a killer, at least in Mitra's nightmare. But then Mitra wakes up from her nightmare and finds that Flips has had her hair cut off, has bloody scrapes on her cheeks and arms, and there is a message in a large piece of paper saying, I want the phone! That's the end of issue 1. I thought it was pretty good, and I felt like it was setting things up to come later, while also having a lot of things happen in it as well. It's a good beginning to this 3-issue series, but let's move on to issue 2. Issue 2 has Mitra and Kyra try to help Flips deal with her cuts by putting band-aids on her and each other, pretending that band-aids are the new weird fashion, which baffles Kyra's mom. Okay, that's kind of funny. Later, Mitra sees her brother, Murdad, at a skate park, teaching little kids how to skateboard. She takes a picture of him on her phone and applies a twisted filter to him, causing him to fall while he's performing a trick and, judging by the reaction panel, apparently get mangled. While at the hospital, Mitra encounters a strange, gray-looking boy who appears to be vomiting slime. The boy knows her name, too. Back at home, Mitra considers telling Kyra about her phone and all the weird things that are going on, but starts to wonder if she's simply going crazy. But then her pet cat walks up to her, and her cat is now pink, from the pink filter she used on it earlier. So at this point, it should be obvious to Mitra that her camera filter is making all these weird things happen. Her brother falling off his skateboard, the bullies vomiting at the computer lab, and her cat turning pink. But since this is a Goosebumps story, and it's customary for Goosebumps characters to miss obvious, it'll take a while before she figures it out. And we know she hasn't figured it out yet because the next scene has Mitra taking a picture of her friends and applying a filter called Secrets. Weather shows up shortly after, and she and Mitra hang out for a bit, while their reflections in the window show off some interesting effects. Mitra has some sort of weird white electricity looking effect coming off of her reflection, while Weather's reflection shows what look like strings, almost like puppet strings, coming off her. What could that mean? Mitra then begins to hear everyone's thoughts, and she's not happy about what she hears. She overhears Kyra's thoughts saying that Kyra needs to tell Mitra that she and Weather won't be able to work out together. Also, What appears to be some kind of voice starts telling Mitra that everyone around her is lying to her, that she shouldn't trust anyone, and that Kyra is trying to take her phone. The next day, there's also a news report of people in various cities suffering from some kind of strange illness, making them start to turn scaly. Which cities? The exact same ones in her phone game, Creeps, about feeding cookies to unsuspecting people to turn them into lizard-like creatures. I'll briefly say that's more or less a plot of the Goosebumps book, Calling All Creeps, which was about lizard people in human disguises trying to trick people into eating cookies with seeds baked into them that transform them into lizard creatures themselves. Now apparently, because Mitra is playing that phone game about selling cookies with lizard seeds, people are being transformed in the real world. Uh-oh. The issue ends on a literal cliffhanger. Mitra and Kyra have an argument about the phone, while Mitra uses her newfound ability to read Kyra's mind to argue with her about things she thought but didn't actually say. They fight and end up falling off a cliff, kinda like the dream sequence near the end of issue 1. And that's issue 2. Much better storytelling, and the things set up in issue 1, such as the Creeps phone game, the dream sequence involving falling off a cliff, and the phone being haunted, are being used in issue 2. I'd say issue 2 is my favorite out of all 3 issues. What's issue 3 like, though? Well, let's take a look. Issue 3 begins with Mitra and Kyra rescued by Weather, who explains that somehow something pushed her to rescue them. When she walked towards school, everything went black. When she walked in any direction other than the cliff the two were at, everything went black. So she went the only direction she could go, which led her to rescue the two. This is obviously strange, but the reason this happened is never explained. Kyra gets a text message from Flips, who is hanging out with, apparently Mitra? A second Mitra? A fake Mitra. What happened? It's explained that at some point, Mitra used a filter called twinning on herself, unknowingly creating an evil clone. We never saw that happen in the story, so this evil clone plot seems to have suddenly come out of nowhere. Anyway, Kyra, Mitra, and Weather rush to the school to try to warn Flips of the Mitra clone, but Slappy the Dummy and a skeleton show up to attack them and steal the phone. But then, the bullies who broke Mitra's phone earlier also show up and then reveal themselves to secretly be lizard people in human disguise. I'm not kidding. The randomness only continues with a fight that results in Slappy being destroyed by bleachers and the phone being destroyed, causing the evil Mitra clone to disappear. All is well, right? Well, Weather reveals herself to not really have a crush on Mitra, but instead, the phone somehow made her do it. She even apologizes for, quote, acting weird. That might explain the phantom puppet-like strings we saw in her reflection earlier. It still sounds weird, though. How does she know that the phone made her crush on Mitra? What kind of haunted phone is this? It can change people's sexual orientation and force them to have crushes? Anyway, every Goosebumps book ends with a twist, and this comic is no different. So what's the twist? Mitra goes back home, she finds that she has a new brother, that vomiting boy she met at the hospital. He tells her that she'll have to take care of him, unless she wants her parents to die. The end. And that was issue 3. Pretty much just a bunch of randomness. The things that are set up in issues 1 and 2 don't really pay off here. The evil Mitra clone wasn't set up at all, but instead seems to have come out of nowhere. The bullies secretly being lizard people doesn't make sense. In fact, issue 2 set up the idea that Mitra's use of the Creeps phone game was causing people to be turned into lizard people, so why not use that instead? That would make more sense and flow more naturally from what came before. And the vomiting boy in the hospital, where did he come from? It doesn't make sense. So, anyway, what do I think about the comic overall? One thing I don't care for is the idea of making Slappy the Dummy into this big mastermind villain. I get that he's popular. They even made him the mastermind villain in the Goosebumps movie. Thing is, in the books he is popular for a reason. The Night of the Living Dummy Goosebumps books were about Slappy always coming to life and trying to gaslight some poor kid, getting the kid in troubles for things that he did, and then when nobody was looking, he'd attack the kid and demand to be his permanent slave. The ending of the story went in the same direction Goosebumps book endings very often do, with lots of random action happening, followed by a twist ending that sometimes comes out of nowhere, and this ending really felt like it came out of nowhere. Like, couldn't they instead take a plot element that's actually being built up and use that as a twist ending? Or do more of the phone game about turning people into lizard creatures by tricking them into eating cookies with seeds in them? You know, do something that's actually in the story itself? And what's with the sudden evil Mitra clone? We learned that she's the result of Mitra using a twinning filter, but we never actually saw her use it, so it feels like it came out of nowhere. On the plus side, the characters are nicely done. Character personality traits are revealed and later used in the plot. The characters even learn things about each other, which is basically character development. In fact, I'd say there's more character development than the Goosebumps books ever had, which isn't saying too much, since the books had like no character development. Plot elements are set up ahead of time as well, and issue 2 tends to do a good job with the things that issue 1 sets up. It's just that the ending introduces a bunch of new plot elements instead of doing what it can with the ones that existed so far. I think the pacing is pretty good for the first 2 issues in particular, as considering this is essentially only 60 pages of actual story in total, 20 per issue. They packed what they could into it. It also did a good job of updating the concept of the book Say Cheese and Die. In the original book, an evil camera made random bad things happen that matched the photos it created. In this story, an evil phone with apps makes bad things happen by the user's choice. The user doesn't realize it at first, but applying filters such as so stick and twisted and twinning to a photo causes the photo subjects to indeed become sick, lose balance, or develop an evil twin. The user is unknowingly making the bad things happen by their own choices. I find that pretty creative. Overall, I rate this comic a B. It falls apart near the end, but the build-up and other elements were enough to raise it overall in my opinion. Sadly, it doesn't look right now as if the publisher, IDW, is planning to make another Goosebumps comic anytime soon. Before they made Download and Die, they also made another Goosebumps comic called Monsters at Midnight. I'll just briefly say about that one that it's more or less an adaptation of the book One Day at Horrorland, and, like that book, it's basically about kids being chased by randomness. In other words, it has no real plot, and I didn't like it. Download and Die has a plot that I like, but I don't know how well it's selling, but sadly, the publisher has made no announcement of continuing this series, which is a real shame, since other than the ending, I'd say they got themselves a winner here. I'd love to see them adapt and modernize other stories sometime.